Racist cop mocks black army general in court, but a single phone call flips the script. The courtroom buzzed with tension, each tick of the clock feeling like a thunderclap. All eyes were on Officer Danvers, his smug grin plastered across his face as he leaned back in his chair like he owned the place. You could almost hear him thinking that he was untouchable. Across from him, General Marcus Mitchell sat, a storm brewing behind his calm exterior. The general had faced bullets in battle, but today he was armed with nothing but truth and an unwavering sense of justice. It was meant to be just another day in court, a trial that everyone expected to follow a predictable path. Officer Danvers accused of racially profiling Marcus during a routine stop. A case that shouldn't have gone so far, but somehow it had turned into a media frenzy, a circus of racially charged confrontation, exposing raw wounds in their community. Scandalous headlines screamed from every type of screen. And the courtroom filled with gasps and murmurs of disbelief. Suddenly, the air thickened, electric. Just as Marcus was about to take the stand, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. It was an unknown number. His heart raced as he answered. An old voice resonated on the line. The voice of his former mentor. A man who had shaped his early years in the military. Marcus, you need to listen. The urgency nearly knocked the wind out of him. The mentor spoke in hushed tones about a hidden connection between Danvers and Marcus's family. A thread woven through years of deception. What do you mean? Marcus barely whispered, dread pooling in his stomach. Details emerged like shadows from the past, connecting dots he thought long erased. The idea that everything he stood for could be tainted. That Danvers wasn't just a rogue officer, but a pivotal player in something far more insidious, aimed at undermining influential leaders. The snare of revenge tightened around Marcus's ear. As the words sank in, the court watched as he staggered. Eyes widened, breaths caught in throats. Could it be true? The whispers shake through the crowd. The battle lines were redrawn. Revenge or justice? With a shudder, Marcus found his focus. He stood tall, the weight of his family's legacy pressing on his shoulders. The memory of injustice raced through him. He needed to expose the truth, to unveil Danvers for what he really was. A pawn in a larger scheme. A toxic representation of enduring racism, deceit and betrayal. Just when he thought he had gathered enough strength to share his explosive revelation, the courtroom doors swung open, interrupting him. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Danvers' expression morphed from arrogance to panic in an instant. "Don't you dare!" he shouted, desperation piercing his bravado. That voice ignited a chorus of murmurs, the audience hanging on every spoken word as Marcus struggled with the chaos unraveling in front of him. Everything felt suspended in a moment of horror. Questions burned. Would he risk it all? Would he finally confront the beast hanging over his head? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without any notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming up. And while you're here, hit that powerful like button. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching? I love getting to know every incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Marcus felt the weight of the room pressing down like a thick fog. Tension was electric, and he could feel every eye on him, waiting for what he would do next. Danvers's face twisted into a mask of panic, the bravado evaporating like mist in sunlight. Thoughts raced through Marcus's mind, battling with the tide of anger and betrayal. Then, before he could steady himself, the doors flew open again. This time, a figure stepped in. Someone everyone knew, Captain Lisa Reynolds. What do you mean? Before she could explain, her gaze locked onto Danvers, a fierce determination in her expression. He's not just some rogue officer, she said, her voice steadying. He has ties to a group, an underground faction that's been working against our military to undermine its leadership. They're planting seeds of division, and he's been a part of it for years. The courtroom erupted. Murmurs swirled like a tempest in the gallery. Gasps echoed. Marcus's mind raced. Could this be true? The thought knocked the air out of his lungs. He had always seen the world as black and white. Now the shades of grey were blinding. Danvers sneered, attempting to regain control. This is absurd. You're just trying to deflect. But Lisa wasn't finished. Her voice rose, cutting through the chaos. Your father was involved, Danvers. You were raised in this environment of hate. Shedding the shackles of your family legacy doesn't mean you're innocent. Marcus froze. For a moment, time stopped as the truth unfolded, unfurling like a nightmarish banner. Is this why Danvers targeted him? Was he merely a pawn in a game that stretched back through generations? The anger roiled within Marcus, twisting into something more profound. Fear, for the world he thought he knew was crumbling. Lisa had played a deadly card, revealing deep connections that left Marcus reeling. Could he trust anyone? Did any of this matter anymore? And suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Every person in the space held their breath, eyes darting between Marcus, Lisa, and Danvers, sensing the storm brewing. As Marcus contemplated the weight of Lisa's words, ready to voice his anger, an explosion of glass shattered the silence. A loud bang! In an instant, chaos erupted. The crowd screamed, ducking for cover as security scrambled toward the noise. A shot had been fired from somewhere outside the courthouse. Panic surged like a tidal wave. Marcus's heart raced. His training kicked in as he instinctively moved to protect those around him. But in the midst of the chaos, a chilling thought crept into his mind. Who was the target? Was this attack part of something larger? He looked at Danvers, who was now ashen. Fear was etched on his face. The mask of arrogance shattered. For the first time, Marcus saw vulnerability. And in that moment, everything shifted again. Were they both fighting a battle that was far too intricate for EI? The courtroom no longer felt like a place of justice, but a battlefield of hidden agendas. The echoes of shots rang in his ears, drowning out the shouts. With the stakes rising higher, the line between ally and enemy blurred terrifyingly. Marcus steeled himself. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. As the chamber filled with screams and uncertainty, he grasped the truth. His fight was now against forces far more dangerous than he ever envisioned. What awaited him when the dust settled? The courtroom erupted in chaos. Glass shattered. The air was sharp with fear. Marcus's chest tightened, heart pounding like a war drum. He scanned the room, adrenaline pumping through his veins. What had just happened? The crowd ducked and scrambled. He moved instinctively, eyes darting, searching for the source of the blast. Just then, the door swung open again, this time with a force that made it slam against the wall. Everyone froze. In walked a figure draped in darkness, a stranger's silhouette framed against the bright chaos. The tension shifted once more, like a dust of wind changing direction. The figure stepped forward, revealing herself to be a familiar face. Olivia, Marcus's estranged sister. Gasps filled the room. The tension knitted tighter around Marcus's heart. Why was she here? They hadn't spoken in years. Olivia's eyes locked onto Marcus's, wild and determined. But there was something else. A flash of fear that broke through the fierceness. "Marcus, you need to listen," she shouted, her voice cutting through the panicked murmurs. The crowd's watchful eyes remained glued to her. "Olivia, what are you doing?" Marcus replied, confusion and disbelief drowning his thoughts. The familiar rhythm of their sibling connection tangled with worry. "You have to trust me. Danvers is part of something bigger," she urged, her words tumbling out. "He's not just a pawn, he's a key player." The audience shifted, eyes wide, sensing more than just brother and sister in this moment. "Bigger than what?" Marcus pressed, desperate for clarity. "Bigger than you know. It's not just about race and revenge. It's about control, and they've marked you as a target all along." The words hung heavy in the air. The truth simmered just below the surface, threatening to explode. "What do you mean?" he demanded, his voice trembling. Before Olivia could respond, Danvers unleashed a laugh that echoed harshly through the madness. "This is all nonsense. You're just trying to spin a tale, trying to twist the situation to fit your narrative." "Am I?" Olivia shot back, stepping closer. A burning fierceness igniting in her gaze. "You don't know the half of it. You think we're just here for just..." Marcus was still processing it all, but one truth wove through his mind. The air crackled with tension. Around him, heads shook in disbelief. This was more than just a court case. It was personal, familial, dangerous. Then, as Olivia spoke, a small device slipped from her pocket and clattered on the floor, drawing the attention of everyone. A black, sleek object. A flashbang. The moment it hit the ground, blinding light burst forth, engulfing the courtroom in white heat. Screams erupted. Bodies jolted back. The world turned white. Marcus stumbled, eyes squeezed shut against the brightness. Panic soared through him like a jolt of electricity. Was this part of a larger plan? Seconds stretched like an eternity. When the light finally dimmed, chaos descended. People were scrambling, shouting. Fear hung palpable in the air. And then Marcus spotted Danvers, who had fallen to the floor, face pale, eyes wide with terror. But what was alarming? In his hand, a small tablet flickered dangerously. Within moments, a murmur rippled through the crowd as they realized its content. The screen had been broadcasting everything. The trial and the secrets. Live to an online audience. What was he planning? What was the truth behind Olivia's warnings? His heart raced as the questions piled up. As Marcus turned to Olivia, uncertainty twisted in his gut. Did he truly know who she was? Had she been the one in control all along? In that moment, the very foundations of their fight trembled. Allies and enemies blurred into shadows. Everything he thought was clear now sat in a fog of confusion. What was only beginning felt like an ending. Who could he trust? What was the truth? The urgency clawed at him as the courtroom quaked with possibility. Answers were there, just beyond reach. This was only the beginning. As Marcus turned to Olivia, confusion thickened around him like fog. The courtroom, once alive with shouts and panic, felt eerily quiet in that moment. Waiting for the truth to unravel, yet still suffocated by uncertainty. He looked into her eyes, searching for answers, but finding only more questions. The tension twisted in his gut when he felt the tremor of his heartbeat racing against the chaos. Then it happened. A deafening explosion shattered the air, startling everyone into silence as the courtroom walls quivered. A figure burst through, silhouetted in the chaos, a familiar presence taking shape. It was his father, General Robert Mitchell, his face etched with urgency, a weathered resolve hanging over him like a storm cloud. "Marcus, get down!" he shouted, voice booming and authoritative, cutting through the confusion. "Dad?" Marcus's heart lurched. His father had been long retired, living far from this world of pain and conflict. Why was he here? Wasn't this a fight Marcus was supposed to face alone? Before he could fully process the sight, General Mitchell lunged forward. Who was they? He had always believed in the fight for justice. But now shadows loomed large, distorting everything he thought he understood. Suddenly, Olivia stepped forward, her brow furrowing. "You shouldn't be here, Dad! You don't understand what's happening!" Her voice trembled with an anxious energy, and for the first time, fear flickered across General Mitchell's face. But Marcus's confusion escalated. "What do you know about this?" he demanded, stepping closer. His voice thick with emotion. "You know something we don't!" A hush fell, as if the whole room held its breath. Just then, Danvers slowly rose to his feet, his expression shifting from hardened resentment to almost something resembling fear, as he attempted to backpedal. "This is ridiculous! Your father has nothing to do with this." "That's where you're wrong," General Mitchell barked, turning slowly toward Danvers, his eyes narrowing into slits. This isn't just some random act of racism. The group he's tied to, the plans they have, They have roots that go deep into my past. The crowd gasped. Whispers fluttered around like agitated birds. Questions pulsed in the air. What had General Mitchell done? It felt as if the walls themselves were leaning in, eager to eavesdrop on secrets that had long remained hidden. "General, you mean?" Olivia's voice quivered, and in her gaze, a combination of fear and disbelief blazed. "Yes," her father responded, steely resolve in his voice. "It was never over. They used our family to create divisions. My mistakes became a weapon against you, Marcus. I thought they were buried." An electric shock coursed through the crowd. Marcus's thoughts raced. His father had been connected in ways he never anticipated. "What did you do?" he whispered, dread pooling in his stomach. "I made choices I'm not proud of. Things I thought were behind me, but they always come back." General Mitchell replied, chin lifting defiantly. "If you want to fight this, it can't just be you." A flash of pain erupted in Marcus's chest. Everything he had believed shattered like glass. For years he had held on to the idea of heroism, of justice untainted, but knowledge of his father's past wove uncertainty into every fibre of his being. Could he trust this man who stood before him? And then something incredible happened. A hidden door in the back burst open, and a flood of unidentified individuals clad in black stormed in. Their intentions surged through the air like wildfire, and Marcus realized with sickening clarity the battle was not just in the courtroom, but outside, where they had lurked in the shadows. Danvers cried out as panic broke free again, transforming the courtroom into a whirlwind of fear. "No, not now!" he shouted, collapsing against the wall. Marcus stood frozen. One moment defined everything: the call for truth, the pulse of allegiance. The family legacy was now an unbearable weight on his shoulders. In that instant of chaos, a truth pierced through, forcing him to grapple with a singular thought. What if the enemy was closer than he ever imagined? And then he saw it, hiding in the split-second flash of chaos. A glint from his father's pocket. What was it? A familiar emblem he remembered from childhood, intricately entwined with lies and loyalty. The legacy was darker than he ever wished to believe. Faced with a truth that twisted deeper than he could bear, his world felt as if it were crumbling down. Betrayal cut its way through him. The courtroom became a place where chaos reigned supreme, unraveling the bond of blood under the pressure of hidden wars. As the dust settled around him, Marcus felt a fire igniting within. Who could he trust now? He glanced between Olivia, Danvers, and his father. No clear lines of allegiance remained. Everything was shifting, and as darkness closed in, the only thing Marcus was certain of was that this battle was far from over. And as the hunt began, he knew he was standing at the edge of the unknown. Ready or not, everything was about to change. As the courtroom trembled from the chaos, Marcus felt a strangling grip around his heart. Sirens wailed outside, blending with the murmurs of the saint. His father, General Robert Mitchell, standing there like a spectre from the past, held the gaze of the room. Then time froze at the sound of a thunderous crack above. and a large metal framework creaked before it collapsed. The courtroom gasped collectively, the heavy weight of it crashing down, striking the air like a whip. Dust exploded around them, and Marcus dove to the ground, instinctively shielding Olivia. A moment lost in the cacophony. There was panic, bodies scattering, screams echoing off the walls. The world was chaos. It felt primal, like the ground was shaking beneath their feet. He turned to his father. "What the hell is going on?" The anger seeped through his voice, sharp and bitter. General Mitchell looked shaken for the first time, eyes wide and wild. "Marcus, I wanted to protect you." His words stumbled out, jagged. But before Marcus could respond, another explosion shuddered through the air. He looked toward the broken doorway, only to see figures rushing in. Masked individuals, armed and determined. "Get down!" General Mitchell bellowed, shielding Marcus and Olivia with his body. The masked figures poured in, and Marcus felt adrenaline kick in. He raced instinctively toward the closest individual, his training kicking in. Punch after punch, adrenaline surged. Then it happened. One of the masked figures dropped his weapon, and in that instant, the mask slipped. Time froze again. It was Lisa, Captain Lisa Reynolds. "Marcus, it's me!" She yelled. Desperation etched on her face. Shock pierced through him. He halted mid-attack, eyes locked on her. "Lisa?" His heart raced. Everything felt like a dream twisting into a nightmare. Why was she involved? What the hell was happening? "You have to understand. I'm trying to stop this." "We don't need this right now," Danvers hollered, backing away, face ashen. He looked terrified, the bravado crushed beneath the surface of chaos. But the world shifted again. Another crack of noise. Olivia stood frozen, eyes darting between the chaos, then suddenly stepped forward. "Wait!" she shouted, voice steady, slicing through the confusion like a knife. "I know why they're here." Marcus's stomach lurched. "What do you mean?" But before she could answer, the crowd surged forward. The masked individuals were in position, forming a line, eyes scanning. Marcus felt the pressure build around him, tense as a drawn bowstring. "Step away from him!" one of the masked figures barked, panic clouding the space. "Olivia, tell us!" Marcus begged, anxiety clawing at him. Then Olivia's face changed like a curtain pulled back. "Because they know!" she cried, body trembling with urgency. "They know about the plan, about my real parents!" Silence. A bombshell dropped. All eyes turned to her. Heartbeats raced like wild animals in the room. "What are you saying?" Marcus whispered, the blood draining from his face. "You think I'm just your sister?" She stepped closer. Vulnerability etched into her features. "I was adopted! I'm not just connected to them. I'm one of them." The truth slapped like cold water against his skin. Marcus felt swept away in disbelief. The walls rattled with the weight of her words. Everything he thought he knew shattered into fragments. He stumbled backward. What? It was as if his entire life had tipped over, cascading into darkness. The masked individuals shifted uneasily, the balance of power teetering in the room. Then a fiery strength surged deep within him. "Why didn't you tell me?" But the room buzzed with urgency. The masked figures were on the brink of chaos. And outside, Sirens wailed louder, drawing nearer, as Olivia backed away toward the chaos. Determination in her eyes. A part of Marcus splintered. "We have to work together," he yelled. Conviction breaking through. But before he could reach her, another blinding flash filled the room. A roar erupted as the window shattered, raining glass like deadly glitter. Marcus ducked, shielded Olivia and Lisa as everything fell into turmoil. Friends, foes, would they ever be able to pull together? Outside voices screamed, and the noise became a wild symphony of uncertainty. The more he tried to gather the threads of truth, the more tangled they became. Was Olivia an enemy or a sister? All he knew was darkness was closing in. Time to fight back. But for what? And for whom? The lines were drawn, but even the shadows were coming alive, and he was losing sight of everything. All he could hold on to was raw instinct. The storm was rising, and unknown forces were sinking deeper. Would anyone emerge unscathed in this war? Where would the path of truth lead him next? Marcus could hardly process Olivia's revelation. She was one of them? He felt a shot of everything. Betrayal coursing through him like ice. The courtroom had turned into a battleground, yet all he could think about was the sister he thought he knew. The tension in the air was palpable. It practically crackled around him. Voices were rising, people shouting, bodies bumping in chaotic retreat. But Marcus's world felt still. His father's face twisted in disbelief, eyes widening at Olivia's words. "What are you talking about?" he demanded, the urgency cutting through the chaos. "Did you think you raised me just to be some innocent child?" Olivia shot back, her voice trembling yet fierce. "I've been trained. I've seen things you don't understand." Another blast rang out, rattling through the courtroom, sending shards of glass spiraling. Panic and despair clawed at him. The masked intruders lunged forward, their intentions dark. But Marcus's heart sank deeper under the weight of Olivia's confession. He had spent years fighting against a world he thought was black and white. A villain in a uniform, a hero in arms. But now those lines blurred. Was he standing on the wrong side? Could he really trust her? "Why now? Why here?" he yelled, trying to keep his voice steady despite the storm within. "I never wanted this." Olivia insisted, eyes wide, shimmering with emotion. "But they're coming for all of us. You think this is just about right and wrong? It's about power and control that runs deeper than you know." Before Marcus could respond, a thunderous noise rolled from above. Bars and supports creaked ominously. The crowd gasped, eyes shooting toward the ceiling. Then came a low, booming sound, ice cold and heavy in the air. With a deafening crash, the metal structure above them twisted and gave way. A bulky beam plummeted toward the front of the courtroom. Everything happened in slow motion. Marcus saw his father diving, tried to push Olivia to safety, but the blast knocked him backward, disoriented. Time froze. He felt his chest tighten, heart pounding in a chaotic rhythm. The beam crashed down, smashing against the ground, sending concrete and dust flying. A thick mist enveloped the room, blinding everyone. When the smoke began to clear, Marcus struggled to breathe. Then he saw it. A shadow emerged from the haze, glinting slightly in the flickering light. It was small, spherical, and ominously familiar. A device not unlike a grenade, hidden beneath the fallen rubble, ticking softly like a time bomb. His throat tightened. "Get back!" he shouted, instinctively pulling Olivia further away. The world around them felt electric with fear. "Is this another one of your games?" Danvers hollered, terror etched on his face, hands raised defensively as he staggered back. "This was never supposed to happen." Then something shifted. Olivia reached out, eyes locked on the device, and for a heartbeat, he felt a connection click. "We have to disarm it!" "Are you crazy?" Marcus's voice rose, disbelief thickening the air. "You think you can just..." But Olivia's expression changed, turning fierce. "I know how! I've seen this before!" Before he could stop her, she lunged toward the device. The crowd gasped simultaneously. Was this a sacrifice? He felt panic crash over him. If this was a plan to destroy him, would she really go through with it? But as her hands hovered over the ticking device, a familiar voice broke through the clatter and chaos. "Olivia, stop!" Everyone froze. It was Captain Reynolds, her voice cutting through the fear like a knife. She rushed toward Olivia, urgency spilling from her lips. "This isn't about disarming it, it's about the trigger. You don't just pull things apart." "Then what do I do?" Olivia yelled, desperation painting her face. "Only one person can stop this now," Lisa shouted back, pointing emphatically toward Marcus. "You have to tell him the truth! Your truth!" Suddenly, everything spiraled. Marcus felt his pulse racing. What truth? Did he even want to know? He stared wide-eyed as Olivia reached out, trembling, her fingers brushing against his. "I never meant for any of this to happen, Marcus. But I know who our real enemies are." His heart sank. Who was she really? The world around him spun as uncertain alliances fell apart. Would he be forced to accept the truth? Would they make it out alive? The device ticked ominously, and suddenly every breath felt like a countdown. Their fate rested in unpredictable hands. And with every second that passed, the question hung heavy in the air. What was the true nature of their fight? And who would they turn into when the dust settled? Marcus felt the weight of Olivia's words crash over him like a tidal wave. "I'm one of them," rang in his ears, twisting his stomach into knots. The truth stood between them like a chasm. Everything he knew about her shattered into a million pieces. Just when clarity danced on the edge, the ticking device surged with urgency, pulling his thoughts into chaos. "Olivia, wait!" he shouted, grasping for answers, his heart racing. "Why didn't you tell us before?" But her eyes were locked on the device, determination overcoming fear. "Because I couldn't let them find out. I had to play my part." "Your part in what?" Lisa's voice sliced through the noise, panic gripping tightly. "Stop talking riddles! You're making it worse!" The ticking grew louder, a cruel reminder that time was slipping away. "I couldn't trust anyone! Not even you, Marcus!" Olivia yelled back, her breath coming in quick bursts. "They've been watching us, all of us." Just then, a figure darted through the chaos. It was General Mitchell, Pushing through the throng, his expression filled with fierce determination. "Get away from her! She's not who you think she is!" "What do you mean?" Marcus demanded, fear clawing at his throat. But before General Mitchell could answer, everything changed again. There was a deafening silence, a moment suspended in time, and then a blinding light erupted from the device. "Look out!" someone screamed. Marcus's heart pounded in his chest as he instinctively threw his arms around Olivia. The shockwave blasted through the air, sending them all sprawling back. The world spun as glass shattered, debris raining down like deadly confetti. And then, amidst the chaos, it happened. The device clicked off. A small voice echoed, coming from an arm hidden deep within the shadows. "You've wasted enough time." Everyone paused, confusion washing over them. The voice carried a strange blend of familiarity and menace, dragging eyes toward the source. From the corner emerged a figure clad in darkness, the outline familiar yet disconcerting. As the dust settled, the figure stepped into the dim light, revealing a face Marcus thought he'd buried deep in his past. It was his mother. "Mom?" Marcus's voice broke, disbelief flooding his veins. She had been gone for years, swallowed by a storm of unanswered questions and winding alleys of grief. In that moment, reality felt like quicksand, pulling him deeper into the unknown. The courtroom was frozen. Gasps filled the air. Eyes wide, tongues stilled. The masked figures shifted, uncertainty brimming around them. "Marcus, I'm so sorry," she said, her voice trembling yet resolute. "I didn't want to come back like this." The air crackled with tension. Olivia staggered back, eyes darting between Marcus and their mother. "What is happening? Why are you here?" "Because I had to warn you," she cried. "Everything you know is a lie. You've been living in a web of deception your entire life. And why should we believe you?" Danvers shouted, a mix of anger and fear gracing his features. But the room grew quiet again, drawn into the gravitational pull of truth. Before anyone could react, the ticking device suddenly emitted a chilling, high-pitched whine. The sound pierced through the confusion, setting off mute alarm bells. "Get away from that!" Issa yelled, rushing forward, but it was too late. Boom! A blinding flash engulfed the room. Cries melded into one, a single scream of terror, as the explosion ripped through the air, shaking the very ground beneath them. Marcus felt his world flip upside down, reality distorted by the shockwave, and then darkness fell. When the light began to dissipate, Marcus found himself lying on the floor, surrounded by a cloud of dust. The sound of distant sirens filled his ears. But everything felt disjointed, blurred. He blinked through the haze, and when his vision cleared, nothing was the same. The courtroom lay in ruins, but something else emerged, another truth. The figure of his mother stood, but now with an unnatural fierceness in her eyes. She was no longer the woman he remembered. "Why did you have to come back?" he thought, the words clawing at his throat. "What have you done?" It was a moment that shifted everything. With her appearance came a storm of uncertainty. Relationships cracked, secrets bubbled to the surface, and trust vanished like smoke in the wind. As the dust settled around him, Marcus realized that this fight had only just begun, but it was a fight larger than he imagined. Would they ever piece together the fragments of this shattered world? And more importantly, who could they trust among their ranks? Out of the chaos, a chilling thought crept in. What if, just what if, everything they believed was part of a much deeper game? Marcus blinked as the dust settled. His heart raced, drumming in his chest as he processed his mother's reappearance. She had vanished from their lives, leaving behind questions wrapped in silence. Now, here she stood, amidst the wreckage of the courtroom, her eyes glistening with an urgency that demanded attention. "Mom?" He couldn't shake the disbelief that coiled in his gut. "What are you doing here after all this time?" "We don't have time for this, Marcus," she urged, desperation coating her voice. The ticking device lay forgotten at their feet, still echoing an eerie reminder of the peril they faced. Olivia stepped back, eyes darting between Marcus and their mother. She could barely manage to whisper, "What did you do?" General Mitchell's face crumbled under the weight of his past. "You shouldn't have come back like this!" he shouted, fear cracking his voice. The truth rippled between them, a family splintering further. Suddenly, the room buzzed with energy. The masked figures shifted uneasily, glancing from each other to the device on the floor. It ticked ominously in the silence, lingering uncertainty hanging thick in the air. "Marcus, I need you to listen," his mother pleaded, reaching out. "This isn't just about us. It's about an entire network." Before she could finish, the lights flickered, and a new sound, unfamiliar and chilling, grew louder. It began as a low hum, creeping through the chaos, vibrating in their bones. A heavy metallic door at the back of the courtroom suddenly slid open with an almost mechanical precision, revealing a pair of unknown figures. Tall, clad in dark uniforms that reflected the chaos around them, they stepped into view with an air of authority that silenced the crowd. A collective gasp echoed. Who were they? Marcus felt the air grow heavy as confusion morphed into dread. "Lieutenant Simmons and Officer Reed," one of the newcomers announced. His voice sliced through the disarray, commanding the space. "We've come to put an end to this." End what? Questions raced in Marcus's mind, his pulse pounding. "I'm sorry it had to be this way," Reed said, his tone smooth, laced with something sinister. "But you've all been playing a dangerous game, and we can't allow that." "What does that mean?" Marcus shouted, stepping forward. "What are you talking about?" "Orders," Simmons replied, unflinching. "From the higher-ups. We know what you've uncovered, and we can't let it spread." The truth fell hard. Marcus glanced at Olivia, horror dawning on their faces. A network? Higher-ups? What were they tangled in? Suddenly, without warning, the ticking device sprang to life, blaring an alarm. The once-forgotten pressure in the room exploded into a frenzy. "Everyone, get down!" Lisa shouted, lunging toward Marcus. But it was too late. A blinding flash erupted, washing over them like fire. The ground shook as a wave of heat swept through the courtroom. Marcus felt his muscles lock, his breath stolen away. Time twisted as he fell to the ground, mind racing, heart pounding. When he opened his eyes again, the room shifted wildly. His mother was gone, swallowed by the blaze. Confusion gripped him as figures framed by smoke faded into the shadows. "Mom!" he yelled, scrambling up. Panic clawed at him, but the sight that met him sent chills down his spine. Bodies lay scattered, confusion simmering over despair. But among them a familiar face appeared. Danvers was down, but not alone. He was pinned beneath the rubble, hands clutching his chest, breathing erratically. "You don't understand," he gasped. "It's bigger than any of you!" "Shut up!" Olivia yelled, rushing toward him, but Marcus held her back. In that moment, everything shifted in the air. Each truth felt slippery, tanning underfoot. What had they stumbled into? As they stood there, questions throbbing in their minds, the silence thickened again. A heavy weight, one that promised revelations that would shake their worlds. What was bigger than them? What had he really inherited? An uneasy calm washed over them as the ticking device silenced, leaving only the echoes of what was left unsaid, lingering like ghosts in the smoke. They had crossed boundaries they never meant to touch. And amidst the chaos, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change forever. The real question hung heavy in the air. How deep did the lies run? And who would be left standing when it was all over? The room held its breath, the silence thick and heavy. The stillness was deafening, wrapping around Marcus like a blanket. He stared at Danvers, who was slumped against the floor. The fear in the air felt dense, almost tangible. His heart raced as he scanned the wreckage, eyes darting between Danvers and Olivia, whose brow furrowed in uncertainty. "What do you mean by it's bigger than this?" Marcus pressed, knuckles white as he clenched his fists. "I mean," Danvers gasped, struggling to catch his breath, "this isn't just about race or revenge. They've been in the shadows manipulating us all. But before he could finish, the lights flickered again, and a low rumble echoed from the back of the courtroom. Everyone turned, and for a brief moment, it felt like time stood still. The air felt electric. Then a figure emerged through the smoke. A man dressed in a crisp uniform, eyes fixed intently on Marcus. "Lieutenant Harris," he declared, voice booming, drowning out the chaos around them. "It's time to end this charade!" Harris swept into the room with an air of authority, overshadowing the fear that hung thick in the air. In his hands, he held a device that glimmered ominously under the courtroom's dim lights. Marcus felt a jolt of terror. Was this another weapon? Then Harris pointed at Olivia. "You're not who you think you are!" His voice was so sharp, it cut through the gathering confusion like a knife. "You've been playing both sides!" "What do you mean?" Olivia shot back, anger flaring in her eyes. "I don't even know who you are!" But Harris continued, unflinching. "You're the key, Olivia. The key to unraveling everything they've built. You've been conditioned, groomed for this moment. It's time for the truth to come out." Marcus felt the weight of the world shift again. What truth? What had they dragged into the light? Before he could yell for answers, a loud thud erupted, shaking the floor beneath them. Suddenly, another figure burst through the debris. It was his mother. Her eyes were wild, panic etched into her features. "You don't know what you're in for!" she yelled, scrambling to Marcus's side. "I've worked for years to keep you safe. I had no choice." The room erupted into chaos as the pieces started to fall together. The onlookers gasped, expressions shifting from curiosity to fear. "You were part of it all along," Olivia accused, stepping back, voice quivering. "You—" But Marcus felt something infect the air. A sudden wave that poured over them like ice water. With his mother's presence, a truth hung in the balance. One that threatened to unravel everything he believed. Everything he knew about family and loyalty cracked like dried glass. As the faces of the onlookers shifted between doubt and dread, everything seemed to converge at once. The ticking stopped. A stillness settled, but something was wrong. Then, without warning, the ground shook violently, as if the world was shaking them off. The lights flickered, splintering in jagged bursts. People screamed, and a sharp crack echoed through the courtroom, a sound that resonated deep within Marcus's bones. The floor beneath them splintered, and a great chasm opened, swallowing everything in its path. Confusion spiraled, bodies tumbling toward the abyss, and the air grew thick with dust and despair. "Marcus!" Olivia screamed, her hand reaching out as the ground beneath her crumbled away. "Help me!" But Marcus was frozen, shock holding him in place. Everything he thought he understood tumbled into darkness alongside so many questions. The room, their lives, disassembled into chaos. As he reached for her, the floor splintered further. With a terrifying scream, Olivia fell. The last thing he saw was her terrified face, eyes wide, vanishing into the depths. "No!" he yelled, desperation erupting within him. The room spun, shadows looming larger than life. What did this mean? Had they all merely been players in a game, manipulated by unseen hands? Beneath the cacophony, a lingering thought clawed at him. What truth was lost in that fall? Would they even have time to salvage it before everything he valued was swallowed whole? Marcus's heart pounded in his chest as he stared into the abyss where Olivia had fallen. The truth twisted in his gut. She was part of something far beyond him, beyond them all. The chasm shifted under his feet, and he felt a wave of darkness wash over him. But just when despair threatened to engulf him, a flicker of determination ignited within. "Get up, Marcus! We have to move!" his father's voice thundered, bringing him back to the present. General Mitchell pulled him away from the edge as the courtroom continued to tremble. Dust coated their faces, the stench of fear hanging heavy in the air. "Is she?" The words caught in Marcus's throat. "Is she gone?" "We don't know," his mother said, urgency in her eyes. "We need to regroup and find out what's really happening before it's too late." As they navigated the debris, each step felt like traversing a battlefield. The remnants of the courtroom echoed with whispered fears and disbelief from onlookers, still trying to comprehend the chaos. Faces were pale, eyes full of uncertainty. "Where's Danvers?" Lisa shouted, peering through the dust. Panic tightened her features as they searched for the cop whose arrogance had led to this nightmare. Suddenly, Danvers emerged, blood dripping from his forehead. "I'm still here," he croaked, eyes darting around, desperate. "What's next? Are we done yet?" "Don't be ridiculous!" Olivia's mother shot back, her voice fierce. "You think this is just about the courtroom? They want to take you out." Marcus felt the weight of mistrust rear its ugly head. Was Danvers part of this war, or a pawn caught in it? Everything felt blurred, the lines of right and wrong tangled together. "We need to escape. Gather everyone." General Mitchell's commanding tone brought a sense of clarity. There's no telling what they might do next. Footsteps echoed from beyond the shattered doors. Marcus felt his heartbeat thunder in his ears. The enemy was coming, and they were outnumbered. Before he could voice his fear, his mother turned to him, her face a mask of resolve. "You need to lead, Marcus." "Me? Why?" he stammered, confusion boiling inside him. "Because you're the one they want. You've become a symbol of hope," she stressed, speaking with intensity. "The truth must come out. We have to rally our allies, figure out who's with us and who's against us." His breath caught as he looked around the room, filled with fear and uncertainty. But somewhere deep inside, a flicker ignited, a desperate need to rise above the darkness. With newfound determination, Marcus stepped forward, gathering the remaining members of the crowd. "Listen!" he shouted, his voice breaking through the murmurs. "I know this is terrifying, but we can't let fear win. We have to band together. We have to find Olivia." The crowd stirred, fear gripping them tightly, but within it he could sense a shift. Hope flickered. They began to nod, whispers of agreement sparking among them. Lisa squeezed his shoulder, all the strength in her gaze. But then the heavy door slammed open again, and looming figures stepped in. Lieutenant Harris and another masked stranger. The tension crackled to life. "You're not going anywhere," the lieutenant warned, eyes cold. In that moment, everything fell silent. Majestic waves of emotion swept over Marcus. Fear, anger, defiance, and he squared his shoulders. "No more games," he declared, voice steady. "We will not be divided." The room vibrated with energy. The crowd murmured in agreement. A kaleidoscope of courage bubbling to the surface. They took a step forward together, a single entity forged under pressure. But as they surged toward the unknown, the courtroom quaked again. Would they make it out alive? Could they save Olivia? Marcus's heart pumped as they stood united in the face of chaos. The fate of it all hung in the balance, a teetering scale between fear and hope. Was this the end, or just another beginning? Only the future held the answers. And before the curtain fell on this chapter of their story, one thing rang clear in Marcus's heart. He would fight. Because if they let darkness win, they would all lose. And speaking of winning, don't forget, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And flood the comments with your shocking reactions and theories about this ending. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait another second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to know this outcome. Your voice matters, and together we'll shape the next chapter.